Welcome back to the Super Memory for Schools program. Today, in the 8th grade English program, I will accompany you in Unit 3, at home. Lesson 2. First, let's find out some words which will appear in the lesson. We have safety, precaution. Safety, precaution. Safety, precaution.
Có nghĩa là sự đề phòng.
Chemical, chemical, chemical.
Là hóa chất.
The chemicals you learn when you study chemistry. Drug, drug, drug or medicine. These two words are synonymous. That is, thuốc that we take when we have a cold. Matches, matches, matches.
Có nghĩa là que diêm.
Electrical socket, electrical socket.
Là ổ điện.
Bead, bead, bead.
Là hạt hoặc là vật tròn nhỏ.
Which we make bracelets. Out of the children's reach, out of the children's reach.
Có nghĩa là để xa tầm tay trẻ em.
Wardrobe, wardrobe, wardrobe.
Là tủ đựng quần áo.
Lighting fixtures, lighting fixture.
Là đèn chùm.
Destroy, destroy, destroy.
Là phá hủy.
And in today's grammar, we will learn how to use 3 modal verbs. Must, have to, and ought to. Now, let's take a look at each one. Firstly, about the formula. If it is a modal verb, remember that following these modal verbs are infinitives. Ought to, must, and have to. With ought to, we have subject plus ought to plus the infinitive. Must, subject plus must plus infinitive. Have to, we have to remember that this is a verb, but we need to conjugate followed by subject. That depends. If the subject is singular and in the present tense, we use have to or has to. But if a sentence is used in the past tense, we have to change it to had to. And all of them have a verb, followed by an infinitive. In the negative form, we use subject plus ought not to plus the infinitive with the modal verb ought to. As for the modal verb must, we will have the negative form, subject plus must plus not plus the infinitive. But with have to, we have to borrow the auxiliary verbs don't, doesn't, or didn't, depending on the subject and depending on the tense of the sentence, and then we add have to and the infinitive form. Please take note. In these 3 words, the most special one is have to because we use have to as a regular verb. 2 words above, ought to and must, we use them as a modal verb. Now, let's take a look at some examples below. Anna is sick. She ought to go to see the doctor.
Anna bị bệnh rồi. Cô ấy nên đi gặp bác sĩ.
And we have ought to,
Có nghĩa là nên.
used to give some advice. You ought not to stay up late.
Bạn không nên thức khuya.
Ought not to plus the infinitive stay.
Không nên.
And now we learn how to use must. I must practice speaking English because I want to speak with foreigners.
Tôi phải học nói tiếng Anh bởi vì tôi muốn nói với lại người nước ngoài.
Here we learn the word must.
Mang ý nghĩa là phải.
But this word comes from our own wishes, and no one is forcing us. We have to learn by ourselves. We have to do everything to achieve a certain goal set by ourselves. Please take a note. This must, but not forced. It comes from the speaker who wants to take action. For example, we have, he has to get up early today because he will have a meeting this morning.
Anh ấy phải thức dậy sớm ngày hôm nay bởi vì anh ấy sẽ có một cuộc họp vào sáng nay.
Well, in this sentence, we use has to.
Mang ý nghĩa là phải.
Just like must, but it will have a usage. It is an external circumstance that forces the subject to take an action. Not the subject wants to take that action. I repeat again. Have to, has to.
Nó cũng mang ý nghĩa là phải.
But it is caused by an external factor. And they have no choice but to take that action. It's more coercion. Okay, now we come to the negation of must and have to. Children mustn't play in the kitchen. If it is affirmative, it is also a bit confused between must and have to. The tense and negative form of these two words are very clearly. Mustn't.
Mang ý nghĩa là không được.
Children mustn't play in the kitchen. It's very dangerous.
Rất là nguy hiểm.
You don't have to help her. She can walk herself.
Bạn không cần phải giúp cô ấy đâu. Nó có thể tự đi được.
Here, we use don't have to.
Lúc này mang ý nghĩa là không cần phải.
Don't have to. Plus an infinitive. Now, let's summarize what we have learned in today's lesson. We have vocabularies. Safety precaution. Safety precaution.
Là cảnh báo an toàn.
Chemical. Chemical. Chemical.
Là hóa chất.
Medicine. Medicine or drug.
Có nghĩa là các loại thuốc mình uống.
Matches. Matches.
Là que diêm.
Electrical socket. Electrical socket.
Ổ điện.
Bead. Bead.
Là các hạt nhỏ.
Out of the children's reach. Out of the children's reach.
Để xa tầm tay trẻ em.
Wardrobe. Wardrobe.
Là tủ đựng quần áo.
Lighting fixture. Lighting fixture.
Là đèn chùm.
Destroy. Destroy.
Phá hủy.
And also in today's lesson, we learned how to use three modal verbs. Ought to, must, and have to. Ought to,
Có nghĩa là nên.
and we use subject plus ought to plus the infinitive.
Và nếu không nên,
Ought not to plus the infinitive. Must and have to. Must and have to in the affirmative.
phải.
But must is a wish. We have to do something, a wish from the subject, and not forced by anyone. Have to or has to.
Phải.
But because of the influence of an external factor, and the subject has to take that action and has no other choice. Must not and don't, doesn't, didn't have to have very different meanings. Must not, this means
Không được.
banning something. As for don't, doesn't, and didn't have to,
Thì nó mang ý nghĩa là không cần phải.
be sure to compare these two words with each other. That's all we learned in Unit 3 at home. Lesson 2 in the English 8 program today. See you in the next lesson of the Super Memory for Schools program. Goodbye, see you again.